Well, government giving in to the demands of agitating labor groups has been a source of disquiet for Employment and Labor Relations Minister Haruna Iddrisu.
Well, he voiced out his frustration on Tuesday at the inauguration of a new board for the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. The minister believes the new board has a significant role to play in averting most of the labor agitations and urged them to take up the challenge.
That's Mahama, whose vow in March last year not to succumb to the many labor agitations in election years, brought about the famous dead goat syndrome analogy. The comments by his Employment and Labor Relations Minister, however, suggest the administration hasn't quite handled that resolve to his satisfaction. Strange as it may sound, the minister, who would typically sign off the agreements to end the agitations, had his own complaints.
There appears to be a growing trend that I must express a personal disquiet about. The tendency where workers threaten strike or embark on strike, and the immediate response from government sources is get what you want. We are giving you this amount or that amount, or we are engaging you for this purpose because you are on a strike action. By that single act, we are giving an incentive for people to continue to strike even when they have no basis.
He is, however, hopeful the 7-member board mandated to deal with labor agitations would help out.
Therefore, let me task and charge this board to be proactive and preemptive in order that we can avoid many of the instances where the industrial peace and harmony of this country is disturbed, largely by a clear lack of understanding sometimes of the law, sometimes of the process, and sometimes in managing the particular grievances that are concerned. And also, as you are aware, to manage the single spine pay policy. And again, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, a very important commission of government, because you are largely responsible for public service pay policy.
Chairman of the board, W.K. Kemevo, pledged that labor agitations and demonstrations may well be a thing of the past because his board would implement the single spine salary structure to the letter.
I pledge to support and cooperate with the Honorable Minister, the management and staff of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and other key stakeholders to develop comprehensive strategies to proactively respond to the issues and challenges arising from the implementation of the single spine pay policy and other related matters, and thereby reduce to the barest minimum the tendency to do firefighting, as it were.
Haruna Iddrisu further tasked the new board to ensure high productivity in the public sector commensurate with the salary being paid to public officers.
The Electoral Commission is once again cautioning media practitioners to eschew sensational reportage through distorted and exaggerated fact that all have the potential of plunging the nation into some political chaos during the electioneering.
Bono Ahafo, Regional Director of the Commission, George Jabbar, at a day's training workshop in Sunyani, noted it is important for the practitioners to contribute to the promotion and maintenance of peace by avoiding publications that could inflame passions.
Training workshop dubbed Capacity Building for Media Practitioners in Election Reportage and the Highlights of CI 91 was organized by the Electoral Commission with funding from USAID. The aim of the workshop was to enhance the knowledge of media practitioners in the Borno-Ahafo region on CI 91, as well as give journalists guidelines to ensure fair media reportage. The Borno-Ahafo Regional Director of the Electoral Commission, George Jabbar, said Ghana's political situation has come so far, hence the need for journalists to jealously guard it.
Sensational reporting by distorting and exaggerating facts to suit your agenda will do the nation no good, but rather inflame passions. I will therefore plead with you to show professionalism and high ethical standards before, during, and after the elections.
George Jabba urged the media to spread the news about the upcoming limited voter registration scheduled from April 28 to May 8, 2016. The commissioner in charge of Borno-Hafo, Ebenezer Agrafin, observed that it is unlawful for any politician to interfere with the work of electoral officials during the voting process. He advised journalists in the region to get conversant with CI 91 so that they can educate the public. Ebenezer Agrafin also reminded the media to avoid declaration of electoral results without confirmation, as this could be a recipe for disturbances.
We've had so many instances where people declare results only for it to turn out to be untrue, and it's nearly even plunged the country into serious confusion, where the media has announced some results for us at head office to get a different result. Okay, and sometimes some people, what they do is to speculate.
Borno-Hafo Regional Secretary for the Ghana Journalists Association, Larry Kwesi Moses, suggested to the Electoral Commission to engage the services of linguists to develop electoral terminologies for the various local languages. Nestor Kafu Ajomas reports.
Meanwhile, a special representative of the UN Secretary General and the coordinator of the UN operations in Liberia has asked Ghana to build a resilient institution or resilient institutions to prevent conflict and violence, all in a bid to ensure that as a country prepares for the November polls, there'll be peace.
Karen Landgren says people can only act orderly when they believe in institutions that have been set up to address their grievances. She spoke with Beatrice Edu after addressing the 4th Kofi Annan DAG Hammersholt annual lecture of the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center here in Accra.
Resilient institutions are really at the core of stable societies, and too often we are under such enormous pressure as the UN and partners, especially in peacekeeping, to go in quickly and get out quickly. But rebuilding a society is not a technical fix, and for many years, typically after conflict, those societies remain fragile. So these big UN reviews from last year recognize that it's an ongoing process of addressing fragility, building inclusive societies, and these stable institutions. So one of the very big challenges we are now faced with is for the United Nations and for all partners to be singing from the same song sheet, to have a shared analysis of what needs to be done to help countries stabilize and become less fragile, and then to implement it in concert. Africa is extraordinarily fortunate in having the regional and sub-regional bodies it does. From the AU, whose role and capacity have increased tremendously in the past decade, to ECOWAS, to the East African Community, where I served before in Burundi. And of course, ECOWAS has an extraordinary history with Liberia. The role of ECOWAS in Liberia changed Liberia, and it changed ECOWAS. So we see the possibility for ECOWAS to be even more than it is today, to focus on what it is among its member states that will help keep them stable, what needs to be reinforced. And when we look at cross-border threats today, we have to acknowledge there are serious cross-border threats which countries are facing, from trafficking to terrorism. The ECOWAS member states really have an opportunity to use their membership to focus on these threats as well.
In an interview with Joy News, a former senior governance advisor of the UN, Professor Bafo Ajimandria, also warned mass joblessness among the youth in Ghana could also breed terrorist groups in the country.
Somebody was asking about evidence-based. You take your car and drive on the main streets of Accra, and you see troops filing all over the place, either begging or selling all kinds of items. It's a strong indication that our young people do not have jobs to do. But more importantly, If you take a survey of young people who have graduated from our universities over the past 3-4 years, you'll be amazed to find that a sizable majority do not have jobs. Most of them are staying home. I have people like that who come to me all the time. So when young people get restless because they are not being engaged, you can imagine the kinds of things they will begin to imagine for themselves and for their communities and for the country. So there's also a danger that any country that's unable to provide opportunities for its people to be engaged, you are most likely to find such people getting involved in all kinds of anti-social activities, including criminal activities and, at the very extreme, terrorism.
Is the situation that bad in Ghana? I mean, looking at all the security alerts that we've received recently, would you say that the situation is so bad people could easily just fall into the hands of any of these terrorists?
I wouldn't say the situation is that bad. I mean, it's bad, but not very, very bad. And I think by and large, the communities, the society, the government as a whole, we are making efforts to engage these young people. But because our economy in terms of industries have been shrinking, job opportunities that are normally created by the private sector are not there. And the government is not in a position to employ everybody. So therefore, I think the government should create an environment that will enable the private sector to expand, because the more they expand, of course, the more hands they will need in the expansion. And that is what employment is all about.
A vice chairman of the Parliament Public Accounts Committee, that is the PAC, has cautioned government's failure to fully disburse budgetary allocations of the police service will take a toll on its operations.
Samuel Atani claims the service has over the years had its allocations slashed in some instances by as much as half. This, he says, affects recruitment and the purchase of key essential goods and services necessary for the operations. He tells our parliamentary correspondent Elton Brobe the development could be dire for the nation if it is not addressed before the anticipated November 7 general elections.
Following concerns raised by some members of the committee, Deputy Minister for the Interior, James Agaga, told the Public Accounts Committee government is working towards fixing the budgetary release to the service. He also announced plans for a major recruitment exercise for the service. Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, John Kudalo, has directed the Police Intelligence and Professional Standards Bureau to investigate allegations of intimidation leveled against the police by some personnel of the Community Water and Sanitation Development Board. The Deputy Local Government Minister, Emmanuel, at the park sitting on Monday, said his men are unable to collect water bill from the police in some districts across the country because they are always threatened with arrest. But addressing the issue on Tuesday, the IGP said accounts from his personnel suggest no such incident took place, but says he has instructed PIPs to investigate the complaints.
The trial of the main suspects in the murder of the late Upper East Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party has been put off by 2 weeks, following a petition by the deceased family.
The Adams Mahama family's petition to the Chief Justice, among others, wants the suspect, Gregory Afoko, sent to prison for the duration of the trial. The case has been subsequently adjourned to May 3, 2016, as the court awaits the outcome of the petition.
According to a petition filed by the family of the late NPP chairman Tuesday, April 19, the family is against the judge's order to continue to keep the accused in police custody instead of prison custody. They are also against the judge's instruction that the prosecution should bring their witnesses on time. Gregory Afoko is standing trial for the murder of the late Upper East NPP chairman Adams Mahama, who died after a gruesome acid attack. Gregory Afoko and Asabki Alangde were charged with 2 counts of conspiracy to commit crime and murder. A third accomplice, Musa Issa, was granted bail after the Attorney General advised that there was not enough evidence to charge him. The trial of Gregory and Asabki Alangde was scheduled to start on March 23, 2016, but was postponed to Tuesday, April 5, due to the absence of the trial judge, Justice Lawrence Lazagla-Mensah, an appeals court judge with additional responsibility as a high court judge. At the court on April 5, the lawyer for the accused, Israel Aka, said the facts as presented by the prosecution were not conclusive and did not establish the guilt of the accused. A 7-member jury was selected to try the accused after the submission of his lawyer. Mr. Afoko's rejection of 3 of the jurors prompted their replacement. The lawyer for the accused asked the jury to carefully assess the facts and come to a just verdict by acquitting the accused.
And so, have it for the news. We have a couple of your messages here, but as always, you want to get interactive. Please make sure you do so through our WhatsApp platform through the number 0560 800,000. Right now, you can watch us streaming live on YouTube. We have a channel there, Major Online. And then after the show, just like any other regular programming on the channel, we tend to upload a lot more of the segments and the things that we think will tickle your mind. Okay, so I'm just going to hold on to the messages for now. I watched something yesterday on YouTube and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I felt it. So I thought that today's what? Wednesday, midweek. We all need some inspiration, don't we? So here's what I felt and I'm sharing.